Good morning. I would like to start off this program this morning, and I want to welcome you to Egerton University 14th Biennial International Conference. And we'll start off with the national anthem, the East Africa anthem, and Egerton University anthem. If we can be upstanding for the anthem, please.
For humanity advancement, Egerton University we are. Passion for excellence, devotion to duty, professionalism, thus until in one accord, Egerton University we are. Ushirikiano na haki kwa wote, elimu hakika tunapata, ujuzi wa maendeleo ya kimataifa. Egerton chuo chetu cha hakika, kwa ufanisi kujitolea, utenda kazi milele, tukiungana kwa pamoja. Egerton chuo chetu cha hakika. In our varsity is set to achieve great opportunities to research and transforming lives through quality education. Egerton University we are. Kwa ufanisi kujitolea, utenda kazi milele, tukiungana kwa pamoja. Egerton chuo chetu cha hakika.
Thank you very much. We may be seated for those who are in the room. At this time, we would like to welcome Father Dr. Kuria to give the opening prayer.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we thank you this morning. We humble ourselves before your mighty throne, thanking you for this beautiful day. You have gathered us together to continue in this pursuit of knowledge through this conference. Lord, you have invited us and commanded us to conquer and subdue the earth so that the earth can serve humanity. We thank you for giving us this opportunity. May the knowledge that we are going to receive advance humanity, and at the same time help us explore many ways that are good for our living, to make our lives better, and to make this earth a better place to be. Therefore, we ask you to open all the horizons this morning, that as we start this conference this day, Lord, you may bless all of us, bless our presenters, bless all the participants, and all who are going to be engaged in one way or the other. We ask you to give us a good beginning and a good end, that what has been said before us and our goals may be met, and that all of us may come out of this conference more endowed, more knowledgeable, because you give us your knowledge, who is the source of knowledge. Help us again to go out and disseminate the knowledge that we are going to receive. This prayer I make through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you very much, Father Kuria. I just want to check that the session is being recorded, so kindly confirm that. For now, we want to really appreciate all those who have joined us online. I know many were asking,
Recording in progress.
Could we be here face to face? But we are happy that we can still meet virtually. When the organizing committee was planning for this meeting, we considered whether to have it as a face-to-face, but we planned it during the heart of COVID restrictions. And so we felt that we were safer having it as a virtual conference. So we do hope that you'll still find it quite engaging, and we ask that you engage actively in the chat. The Vice Chancellor, Egerton University, University Management members present, keynote speakers who have joined us online, Dr. Tony Omwansa joining us from the UK, Professor Isaiah Wakindiki joining us from Nairobi, other keynote speakers logged in, sponsors present, Egerton University researchers from other universities, participants from private and other private and public institutions, international participants, students, ladies and gentlemen. On my own behalf and that of the organizing committee, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to this 14th Egerton University Biennial International Conference. As a university, we are honored to host you during this important event in our scholarly calendar. Knowledge dissemination and transfer of research outputs is a key strategic objective of the university. Together with the increase of registrable innovations, consultancies, public policy analysis, and also to engage in priority areas of community outreach and extension. The theme of the conference this year is Research and Innovations for Resilience in a Changing Environment. It captures it encapsulates the strategic objectives of the university and clearly interprets the COVID era in which we as researchers find ourselves, and therefore must innovate and refocus and rethink how to continue conducting our business. The keynote speeches that have been lined up for us during this conference will address this theme, or the theme of the conference, in several ways. One, we will look at the Kenya Research Innovation Framework, which Dr. Omansa will be sharing with us this morning. How do we establish a framework that indeed can lead to sustainable development? We'll also be hearing how greening for smallholder agri-food value chains will lead to sustainable agri-food systems. We'll also have another keynote speaker speaking on the search for bioactive molecules for the control of human, animal, and crop disease pathogens. We will also have somebody speaking to us on historical aspects, the stories of strangers in Mama Bolo as captured in the German missionary ethnography in northern South Africa. So it is a rich program that indeed has been lined up for us these 3 days. We will have over 130 presenters cutting across 7 sub-themes. So I do hope and that you will find this conference engaging and that the results presented will be of great interest to you. Let me take this now opportunity just to recognize some of the people that will be presenting in this conference and their institutions. We have certainly presenters, and many of them from Egerton University, from ICRAF, from Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, from JUST, from Kenya Climate Smart Agriculture Project, CALRO, from Kenya National Examination Council, from Kenyatta University, Masinde Muliro University of Science and Technology, Michigan State University, Murang'a University of Technology, National Biosafety Authority, Pwani University, the Open University of Tanzania, the Technical University of Kenya, University of Eastern Africa Baraton, University of Embu, University of Kabianga, University of Mpumalanga, University of Nairobi, University of Pretoria, Wageningen University, I hope I said that right. It's a tongue twister for me. We have also somebody presenting from Winchester Flour Limited and from KCA University, among others. If I did not mention your university, it's not that we don't consider your university or your institution important. Kindly, as you log in, indicate your name, your position, and the institution you come from, and we'll continue to recognize all those who have logged and joined us this morning. So we do hope that we'll have a good attendance. By yesterday, we had over 800 registered members. So we hope that a good number of these 800 registered will be able to log in along the way for the 3 days. Let me also take this time now to recognize the sponsors of this conference. I want to appreciate Egerton University for, of course, supporting this conference, but also the National Research Fund, Cotiva Agri-Science, TAGDEF program, and COELIB project. The last two are based here at Egerton University. We'd also like to recognize the exhibitors that will be exhibiting in this conference. So for the exhibitors, we'll be showing the short clip or the short videos they have sent to us. Karo Njoro Center will be showing their video later on, and also videos for the sponsors for the conference. So at this point, it is my great pleasure now to welcome the Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of Research and Extension, Professor Boklin Bebe. He is a professor of livestock production systems, to give his welcoming remarks. Professor, welcome.
Kenya, Professor Liz Kriel from South Africa, Professor Matasio, Jane Murui, the VC and CEO, KC University, Professor Kindiki, the VC, Egerton University, all the DVCs, Egerton University, all the scientists presenting and participating in this conference, I say I'm very delighted that you honored our invitation to join us in this 14th biannual international conference we are holding here under the theme Research and Innovation for Resilience in Changing Environment. I want to say that in participating in this conference, you will engage with scientists and public personalities discussing various elements of resilience in a changing environment and the research and innovations that drive the needed resilience. And I want to say that resilience, in this case, has a broad meaning. It also includes stability to stress, adaptive fit to changes, and robust transformation. So in the various papers that will be shared in this conference, they will be addressing these aspects in different ways during different themes. I want to invite you to pay attention to the details, to find options that the scientists are offering us, how they are packaging those solutions from their research evidence. The conference is virtual, has already been explained to you as a necessity. This decision was made last year when we started planning this conference, and it was purely to avoid exposing you the participants, to the risk of being in a super spreader event. We are hoping next year, God willing, things may change and we may come back to physical engagement, a traditional way we do it. In the virtual conference, we are planned for close interactions, however, which will be in breakaway sessions. This will be every day for the next 3 days of this conference. And each of the breakaway sessions, different themes will be discussed following a plenary. I therefore ask you to read the program earlier to inform your choice of breakaway session that interests you the most. Those presenting, I ask that you find your breakaway sessions in time from the program, and please observe and adhere to the time allocations to make it easier for the conference organizers to allow everybody have a chance to share their knowledge. The organizers will be at your service for any clarification and questions you may have. Share any such clarifications and questions in the chat facility in the Zoom, as already advised by the director who made earlier remarks. There's also an evaluation form as well. Please fill it. It will help the organizers attend to the areas of improvement you so identify, so that the next conference or subsequent conferences may be better for us and for you. I also want to ask you to keenly manage the, I also want to ask you that that form be filled in every session so that you share it with us. Now, to this end, I acknowledge the efforts of the conference organizing team. Do keenly manage the logistics throughout the conference sessions to the satisfaction of our esteemed participants. To all participants, I want to wish all of you pleasant and informative engagement in this conference. And now allow me to invite the host, the Vice Chancellor of Egerton University, to give welcoming remarks to our guest speakers, presenting and participating scientists. Professor Kibwage, represented by Professor Kibwage. Professor Kibwage.
Thank you. Are you hearing me?
Yes, please take over.
Thank you very much, DVC. The Chief Executive Officer, Kenya National Innovation Agency, Dr. Tony Omansa, the Vice Chancellor of KCA University, Professor Isaiah Wakindiki, members of Egerton staff, guest speakers, distinguished scientists, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. It is a great pleasure to welcome you to Egerton and to the 14th Biennial International Conference. I am honored to address our distinguished guests who have joined us virtually as well. I wish to convey my sincere gratitude and I welcome you all. Ladies and gentlemen, we are living during turbulent times. First, we are to deal with the COVID pandemic and its adverse effects on the social and economic fabric of society. The pandemic created an unprecedented crisis in society. Poverty rates, inequalities, all of this increased as a result of job losses that doubled and have not recovered. Most importantly for Kenya, the economy took a hard hit, which has affected funding public universities. Secondly, we are now experiencing the effects of the Russian invasion of Ukraine that is negatively affecting our economy. Thirdly, we are grappling with the negative impact of climate change. Agriculture in Kenya is primarily rain-fed, and the effects are negatively affecting our crop potential and the livestock yield. With all this happening, we have to be innovative in our approach to dealing with Kenya's social and economic transformation, as underpinned in this year's theme, Research and Innovation for Resilience in a Changing Environment. Underlying this theme is the acknowledgement that science, technology, and innovation are major drivers and enablers of social and economic transformation. Therefore, applying knowledge and innovation is necessary to attain sustainable economic growth and the competitiveness under the prevailing circumstances. Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk briefly about Egerton. Egerton is one of the oldest institutions in Kenya. We currently have over 20,000 students under different programs spread across 10 faculties and 51 academic departments. The university also hosts the Transforming African Agricultural Universities to meaningfully contribute to Africa's growth and development with the acronym of TAGDEF program. This program supports students, and currently we are having a number of students from 14 African countries, and many of the graduates from this program have impacted rural communities from their countries. The World Bank African Center of Excellence in Sustainable Agriculture and Agribusiness system is also at Egerton and is part of 24 centers of excellence supported by the World Bank to establish regional hubs of excellence in 5 priority areas: industry, health, agriculture, applied statistics, and applied statistics. The overall interest of this program is to provide institutional capacity for quality postgraduate training and to forge partnerships among other activities. This center is supporting 240 postgraduate students currently. Ladies and gentlemen, the 14th Biennial International Conference is being held today, tomorrow, and on Friday. And at this year's conference, participants will have an opportunity to address the broad theme that I have said there before, under 7 sub-themes, namely transformative agri-food systems, health systems, science and technology, innovations in climate change and the natural resource management, transformative education for socio-economic adaptability, resilience and ruptures in governance and the geopolitics in Africa, literature, history and culture, entrepreneurship, business and trade. This conference brings participants from academia, research institutions, and other industry experts in various fields to a common forum. The objective of the conference is to provide a platform for participants to share their research results, outputs, and products, and to deliberate and exchange innovative, cutting-edge development ideas, concepts, and actions. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, at Egerton University, we recognize and value creativity and innovations while simultaneously assisting in translating them into profitably exploitable products, processes, and services for the benefit of humanity. The university and its students and to our cherished partners. In light of this, the papers we will present and the discussions we will have will assist us in our contributions as researchers and academicians to the ever-changing environment. I hope that we continue hosting such conferences even as we build upon our collaborations in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, it is therefore my great pleasure to declare the 14th Biennial International Conference open. Thank you, and God bless you all as you interact in the coming days. Asanteni sana.
Bwage, Vice Chancellor, Egerton University. We also want to thank Professor Bebe for the remarks. We note the issues that are facing us as a community and as humanity, the challenges we have had for COVID, climate change, conflicts. But I believe as researchers, that is what we do to find solutions to the challenges that we find ourselves in. And we'll be hearing during this conference how we'll be addressing some of these challenges. It is now my pleasure to welcome the first keynote speaker for the day, who is Dr. Tony Omwanza. Dr. Tony Omwanza is the CEO or the Chief Executive Officer of the Kenya National Innovation Agency, Kenya, where he oversees the development and management of the National Innovation System. He created the Kenya National Innovation Week and Nairobi Innovation Week, mobilizing over 50 partners from the public and private sector and academia to enhance the local innovation ecosystem. Dr. Omwanza has been involved in the technology and innovation ecosystem in Africa for the past 15 years, conducting extensive research and consultancy for various clients ranging from government institutions, international donors, to multinationals. He has been a faculty member at Strathmore University and University of Nairobi. Dr. Omwanza is a member of the Board of Trustees of Kenya National Research Fund and a commissioner at the National Commission of Science, Technology and Innovation. He's also a member of the International Advisory Board at Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences and a member of Information Systems Audit and Control Association and Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineer. Dr. Omwanza will be speaking on effective research innovations framework for sustainable development. Welcome, Dr.
me?
Yes, we can.
I see Peter Oshmaro as well appearing. I'm going to try and share some slides, and I hope you can see. Can you see some slides?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you very much for inviting me and also for the opportunity to share at the Egerton University Biennial International Conference. I have had relationships with the Egerton. I've worked with the Vice Chancellor while at University of Nairobi in the past. I do see the need why I have to be here. Professor Nancy Mungai looked for me probably 1 year ago, and we fixed a date. This week was relatively tough for me because I had to be in the UK for some functions, so I have to wake up very early in the morning to participate here. I don't want to say how early it is now, but it's indeed absolutely an honor to be participating here and make a contribution in the context of what we do at Kenya National Innovation Agency. I absolutely relate with the theme, and because we work very closely with universities to try and drive the agenda of Kenya National Innovation Agency, it really fits to engage in this context. The theme, research and innovation for resilience and the changing environment, I think there is no question as to whether the need to be resilient has become very, very transparent. I mean, and the COVID has demonstrated to us the need for that. And so our orientation is beginning to shift more and more. The world is changing, and we realize that innovation is more of a means to try and survive and even build back better. The investments, I'm sure that the university is putting, and of course other stakeholders as well, in many ways are a demonstration of trying to adapt to the changing world. I'll start by telling you a little bit about Kenya National Innovation Agency, and then I can give a few remarks. My focus is really going to be, how is Kenya organizing itself to provide the support that we need in the context of building innovations for resilience. So this is what we do. This is a mission statement to try and develop and manage the dynamic national innovation system that facilitates taking ideas to market. So the measure of success at the end of the day is how many ideas we are able to get to market and of what quality and how scalable and sustainable are they. And really, we don't make those ideas go to market as Kenya. We try to develop a system that will facilitate that. And the system means there are components within that system. And our interest is to make sure that the components, for example, a university, operates in the best way it can so as to facilitate taking ideas to market. And the second bit of the system is that the components must interact. The university must understand another component called investor relations, or it must understand another component called angel investors, or a component called the marketplace, or a component called policy, and so on and so forth. So we are interested in making sure that the components function in their optimal way, and then second, that those components understand each other and interact optimally. So that's what we try to do every other day, with the goal that innovation can strengthen the socio-economic development. We have two pillars within the innovation agenda, and the two pillars are commercialization and startups. There are many things we have to do in order to make that work. But what really stands out in our efforts is to strengthen the commercialization system and to strengthen the startup movement. Now, the commercialization is in the context now of what we can think about in the university, and I will explain a little bit about what the foundation we are laying for the long haul. The agency is young, as most of us know, but has a great mandate and potentially great impact. Now, in the context of the commercialization track, we've got a target, and I'm moving a little bit back and forth so that you see the context and the flow. On the commercialization track, we've identified a certain set of targets that we're going to work with. Now, we're aiming to support the commercialization of more than 1,000 innovations that will be coming from various institutions and stakeholders, whether individuals, research centers, and so forth. But how are we going to do this? We're going to do this by attracting and nurturing appropriate partnerships. This process has begun. We're already supporting a number of innovations in the last couple of years while the institution was in formative stages. Over the last 1-2 years, we've also supported another set of cohorts, and I think now we're picking momentum because we're building appropriate systems. These partnerships is, remember I did say that our mission revolves around building the system and ensuring the components in the system interact. And we're trying to close the gap between the various stakeholders who must support the pipeline of scaling innovations. We've already established formal relationships with, of course, the National Research Fund, where I sit in the board, the National Commission as well, the University Funding Board, and as you may know, that the future of university funding is going to revolve around output, that come out of institutions. The Lemelson Foundation in the US has committed quite some support to the Kenya, and over the last 1 year, we've worked on a number of initiatives that I will also demonstrate in a little while. FCDO and the UK government has also been very supportive, and I will explain a couple of things that we've already started working with over the last 1 year, and we have a projection of what we might do over the next 3 or so years. The GIZ, and we'll continue to grow this set of partners as we move along. Now, I'll come back to the gap that we recognize within the commercialization of intellectual property, just so that you see the context of where we fit and where our priorities are. Through institutions like the National Research Fund and others, we fund research. And from the narrative of the National Treasury, is that you spend quite some money in research, identification of indigenous knowledge, and so on and so forth. And that is seen as an investment. And I think this is an important point for us to pick, that any resources that are put into research are seen as an investment, and meaning that there needs to be some form of output that can be considered as return on investment. Now, not all research and not all indigenous intellectual assets will translate to some commercial value. In some cases, of course, we'll publish, and in some cases we graduate a student and so forth. What Kenya is heavily putting attention to is how do we spend a little more resources, whether it is financial or manpower, to translate some of the outputs from ideas and research and so forth into something that consumers can use. And that starts with the process of thinking through the commercialization steps, from disclosing to assessment of the value of the commercial value for that matter, to the protection, to the business modeling and business planning, and how that then helps you to identify what kind of market can we fill. And we can roll out that into the market using some forms of systems. Now, under the commercialization steps, we've been doing a bit of work, and we've seen a number of gaps that we want to support to strengthen and fill some of those gaps there. And on the right, you will see the reason why we have IP offices, the reason why we have technology transfer offices, the reason why we have incubators and accelerators, which will be based on value proposition for partners and adding of value to the innovations themselves. So those circles that you're seeing on the right is where we want to put a lot of attention as Kenya. Because if we build these components and they operate effectively within institutions, then the likelihood that we can create joint ventures, the likelihood that we can create startups and spin-offs and enterprises significantly increases. I'm not saying that we don't have these kind of components and systems in place. I will explain in a little while some of the research work we're doing to try and understand what the baseline is and where different institutions are, and what interventions we're going to put in place over the next couple of years to strengthen that narrative. And ultimately, is we want to see as many users and customers benefiting. And some of this work may not necessarily translate to return in terms of income. It could be open source, it could
Hello? Have we lost the link from our side or from Tony's side? From Tony's side. Okay. So as Tony reconnects, we will move on to the next keynote speaker, who is also logged in, Professor Wakindiki. Professor Wakindiki is the Vice Chancellor and CEO of KCA University. He's a professor of soil science with over 28 years of teaching and research experience, 19 of which he has served as at senior level in university management. He's an accomplished scholar with a proven track record, evidenced by over 82 publications in high-impact refereed journals, books, conference proceedings. He has successfully supervised over 42 postgraduates at both master's and PhD levels and examined many theses and research projects. Professor Wakindiki is passionate about research and has 49 research-funded projects to his credit, several consultancies and grants. Previously, he was a research professor at the University of Venda and professor and head of agronomy department at the University of Fort Hare in South Africa. He also served for many years as an academic staff at Egerton University, so he's really kind of returning home today as he does his presentation, Kenyatta University, and the Technical University of Kenya. Professor Wakindiki will be talking to us this morning on a topic, sustainable agri-food systems, greening smallholder agri-food value chains. So I welcome you, Professor, and I welcome all the participants to engage in the chat, asking and raising any questions that you may have. Thank you. Welcome, Professor.
A few words is that I spent 13 years of my life at Egerton University, and so Egerton is a very dear institution to me and my career. I was in the Department of Agronomy, later Soils, Horticulture, and Agronomy. I think it changed names quite a number of times. Otherwise, at the moment, I'm at the KCA University. KCA University, the main campus is in Nairobi, on Thika Superhighway at Ruaraka. We have other 3 campuses, one in CBD, the other one in Kisumu, and also in Kitengela. And our student population, about 17,000. So we have 4 schools, School of Business, School of Technology, School of Education, and professional programs. This anchors our heritage. We were founded by the Institute for Certified Public Accountants. We pride ourselves as the only university founded by a professional institution. And the main, the programs that time were mainly the professional programs leading to CPAK, and it has remained our heritage. My background was given by Professor Mungai. I'm basically in the field of agriculture. I'm a professor of soil science, a discipline that I hold so dear. And for that, when I got the opportunity to speak on transformative agri-food systems. This is a right topic to me, and it is indeed very timely for this broader theme of research and innovations for resilience in changing environment. So for the next 20 minutes or so, we will have a discussion around sustainable agri-food systems, and I'll focus on greening smallholder agri-food value chains as a key aspect of transforming agri-food systems. Let's move on to the next slide. When we talk about agri-food systems, colleagues, we are talking about three components. A system is made up of components, and the components of any agri-food system is that it has elements, it has operations, and outputs. The elements that constitute any agri-food system include the people, the environment, the processes, the inputs, institutions, etc., etc. And these elements, they are engaged in operations that relate to production, the processes, distribution, preparation, and consumption of food. And all this as outputs. And these outputs are realized through economic development, socio-cultural development, environmental, etc., etc. That is what constitutes an agri-food system. Let's move on quickly. Move to the next slide, please. The agri-food systems today are faced with great challenges, and some of them include soil degradation, adverse climate, it's a big topic, social inequalities, inadequate information, limited market linkages, and resource scarcity. These are some of the main challenges that are facing agri-food systems today, especially in Africa and elsewhere in the world. Let's not forget that agri-food systems make the main pillars for the SDG 2. We promised ourselves that there will be zero hunger by the year 2030. We are in the year 2022. So in 8 years' time, we promised ourselves that there will be zero hunger. From available data, we are saying every day close to 135 million people. There seems to be some background noise. Is it okay? Hello? Can you hear me, colleagues?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I was getting some music. The most affected agri-food systems are the smallholder-based agri-food systems, and that's why the focus today is so much on the smallholder-based agri-food systems. That's what I thought would really encompass our subsequent presentations for the next 2 days. And for that reason, we need to strengthen the efforts in their sustainability, which is the theme of this conference, talking about sustainability. And a core consideration to sustainability is the greening aspect. And therefore, we look at the green agri-food value chain systems. Move on, please. Next slide. In terms of research, we pose to ask ourselves what would constitute urgent focus in terms of research in today's green agri-food value chains. And to get an understanding of a green agri-food value chain, it is the value chains that considers working or focusing on those that are living at the bottom of the economic pyramid. And the green agri-food value chains are usually based on three elements that have been discussed by various others and institutions, including AGRA, UNDP, and others. And the three elements of green agri-food value chains include: one, the economic impact. Here, the value chain focuses on enhancing the potential for growth, job creation, comparative advantage, etc. The green agri-food value chain also focuses on social impact, concerns with inclusivity, equity, and access, and also environmental impact. These components acting together yield green agri-food systems, especially when they focus on those living at the bottom of the economic pyramid. That's where we find a majority of smallholder farmers in this part of the globe. Next slide. What could be the challenges of the smallholder green agri-food value chain today? There are several. I'm going to highlight on high level the main ones. They include the input supply, poor seed quality, poor adaptability to environmental conditions, pests and diseases. These remain big challenges in smallholder green agri-food value chains to date. Production challenges, mechanization is still an issue. Close to 7 to 8 years since mechanized agriculture started in a large scale in North America. We still have not much attention in terms of budgets that go to smallholder units, high labor requirements, and sustainable land utilization and the land use, low literacy level, etc., etc. A major challenge also comes in terms of aggregation. We always find these smallholder pieces and parcels scattered all over. So the issue of aggregation becomes important, where availability and accessibility to collection sites, ease of producer mobilization and produce quality, post-harvest losses, all work together to affect the aggregation for markets. Other challenges include agro-processing, where we find obsolescence in equipment, availability of new technology that is quite expensive, and at the end of the day, low return on investment when it comes to smallholder green systems. Marketing is a huge limitation in smallholder settings, where we have limited accessibility to information, infrastructure, market leakages, and limitation to credit access. There are actors today in the market that are trying to address all this, but still it remains a major challenge when we talk about sustainability of the systems. Next slide. I propose strategies for greening agri-food value chains, and these strategies again combine three dimensions: dimensions of environment, of technology, and entrepreneurship that thrive on strong business cases that affect the innovative resource-saving technologies. Here, the strategies focus on costs, on benefits, on environment. And some of the strategies that might be of interest, the researchers going forward should be paying attention to, as discussed in the next slide. Strategy number 1, management of natural resources and ecosystems. A university like Egerton University, I had the privilege to be among the first to log in, and there was an advert going on, and there are huge programs in this area and a lot of activity going on in the area of natural resource and ecosystems management. It was a very nice advert. And in this strategy, it has been addressed under several sub-strategies, mainly sustainable land management. These are practices that help to preserve ecosystems. Examples are work on improved soil management, integrated soil fertility management, improved soil and water management. These are aspects of sustainable land management that could greatly help to sustain smallholder agri-food value chain systems. Next slide. Another example are the integrated landscape management strategies. These are similar to the previous, but they utilize the whole landscape or place-based ecosystem planning. For example, we have quite some interest on eco-agriculture that involves management of landscapes for simultaneous achievement of improved agricultural productivity. Here we are looking at biodiversity, ecosystem services, conservation, etc., etc. Climate smart agriculture in the last 2 decades or so has also been on the table. The emphasis here is on buffering advanced climate impacts. Studies and research on greenhouse gas emissions is and still will remain in the near future a major aspect or a major concern to researchers and other stakeholders in this industry. Conservation agriculture and also issues to do with the ozone. Research on the ozone within the specific locality in the value chain. Strategy number 2, improving resource efficiency. Again, this strategy must be a key element in the circular economy. We are talking about a circular economy that involves regeneration of resources, input and waste, emissions, energy, seepage, etc., etc. And all of this is some aspect of what I'm calling the energy loop. Strategy number 2 also relies on the resource use efficient technologies, research on energy saving technology, which reduces emissions, saving costs, etc., etc. Of farm diversification and sustainability intensification. Aspects of water use efficiency, very important in terms of improving resource use efficiency. Move on. The last strategy overall is the environmental regulation policy. Here, environmental regulation policy would focus to instances where there are no incentives for the value operators to support greening strategy. For example, positive incentive public payments enabling investments and taxation or environmental legislation. Here in the Republic, it starts all the way from our constitution and the various acts of parliament and policies talking about the environment. Whole section 58, 69. The second aspect of the environmental regulation policy is regulatory instruments that could include investment aids covering part or restrictions on land use, outright banning of certain products and technologies, etc., etc. We need environmental regulatory policy, studies and researches and attention going forward. In conclusion, colleagues, we can say that smallholder agriculture has significant influence on the continual reinforcement resilient agri-food systems. Second is that agri-food systems require transformations in sustainable ways that ensure positive economic and environmental benefits to each value chain. And that to facilitate green agri-food value chains, we need to create awareness to smallholder farmers. And second, to conduct intensive research to increase adoption rates of the green agri-food value strategies among smallholder farmers. When I look at what is being discussed in the next 2 days once more, I think it will be addressing one aspect of the greening of the smallholder-based agri-food value chains. I thank you so much indeed, and I look forward to engaging with the audience in the next 2 days. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Wakindiki, for that very interesting presentation. We appreciate your definition of greening value chain, and also that you have highlighted some of the challenges that the smallholder farmers find themselves with, and you have also outlined the strategies for dealing with those challenges. Thank you very much indeed. At this moment, we'd like to open it up for questions, and if there's any who has a question or a comment within the audience and also online. For online, we want to invite your questions so that we can engage with the speaker. May I also remind us, at the beginning, we requested that all those that are logged in, if you could introduce yourself, your name, your institution, and the country from which you're joining us, we'll greatly appreciate. Maybe as we receive a question or comment from the audience, let me start off, Prof. You have mentioned about the environmental regulation policy in supporting the greening value chain. And I don't know from your experience, if you'd tell us what are some of the challenges we see with this, given that smallholder farmers have to deal with the many challenges that you have very clearly listed, including input supply, production issues, aggregation, marketing. But now you've also introduced the issue of regulation for environmental purposes. How easy would it be for smallholder farmers to participate actively?
Thank you, Prof. In a nutshell, we are saying that going forward, we need very proactive legislation, very active laws to cover the smallholder-based agri-food systems. For example, if we are talking about the subjects to do with the environmental degradation, we find that smallholder farmers or smallholder actors will be found in very fragile and vulnerable environments, in slopey areas, in areas that are too arid, in areas that are considered marginal in all ways. We need legislation that supports the smallholder farmer in the sense that it's not only provisions and limitations and sanctions, but also that may compile the other actors to offer incentives to the same actors so that the small actor is discouraged from issues of, for example, degradation, from issues that will be injurious to the environment. What you might find so far in practice now are just those the colonial legacies of just don't, and don't with very little incentive. You tell a farmer not, for example, to cut trees to make charcoal. What alternative are you giving in terms of legislation? Nothing. It's just arrest the person, put these sanctions because of burning trees, etc., etc. You find people cultivating in slopes that are not allowed. We only say that you're not allowed to cultivate on a slope of more than 35%. But what alternatives do you have to these communities that live in these fragile environments? We need policy, we need law that regulates, not only offering sanctions, but also incentives.
All right. Thank you very much, Prof. There's one question for you in the chat. What is alternative plan to prolonged drought, like in the case of Kenya today?
Once upon a time, I listened to someone saying, you know, the folly of Africans is found in the Bible. We look at the skies and we don't know when the rain will come, but we have a lot of faith that somehow moisture will drop from the clouds. The alternative is to embrace technology. We have seen systems develop in more arid areas than ours. Not just to remain where we are in the 50s, in the 40s, waiting for clouds to form, rain to come, the soils are wet, and we can grow some crop, some pasture for livestock, etc. We must embrace technology and science to do agriculture. That's the alternative.
Thank you very much. We'll now invite Mr. Alem Haile, joining us from Ethiopia. He has a question. Alem, if you can hear us, you can ask your question.
Are you hearing?
Yes.
Okay. I am from Ethiopia. My name is Alem Haile. I have one question on the conclusion part to facilitate green agro food systems. One is create awareness to smallholder farmers. How we can create the awareness? By trading form or by others? Thank you.
Thank you, Alem. Professor?
Thank you, Alan, from Ethiopia, and I'm answering from Nairobi, Kenya. You see, you ask a question and you provide partly the answer. One way to create awareness is to make sure that our research is linked to the user. In other words, we involve other actors. It is no longer an issue of scientists or researchers working, identifying a problem, working on it for the sake of a publication or a thesis here and there, but to engage in problem solving where the user is as important as the researcher and other actors and the agencies that are involved in the entire value chain. First, we must describe what value chain are we addressing, and not an isolated component. Working in components brings noise and brings inefficiency in terms of the outcome of any research effort. So I would say that we need to describe and to understand our agri-food value chain systems and enlist all as many actors as possible.
All right, very well put, Professor. Thank you very much for all the questions that we have received. I am sure I'm not closing out anyone. I haven't received any other question. So at this point, I would like to thank our presenter once again, Professor Isaiah Wakindiki, for that presentation. We also want to thank Dr. Tony Omwanza, though he was not able to complete his presentation. And he's not able to join us because he was to join another meeting around 10, and it's now around 10, so he's not able to join us to complete that presentation, but we thank him even for the effort to join us from his business trip in the UK. And at this moment, I want to invite the Vice Chancellor, who is going to make some remarks. Professor Kibwage, please.
Thank you, Professor Nance. Ladies and gentlemen, I thought that since we are having, can I call it an interlude that is occasioned by technological challenges, I would like to introduce our chairman of council, who is logged on as one of the participants. I don't know whether Ambassador Walker is hearing us.
I'm hearing you, Professor Kibwage.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like that our chairman makes a few remarks just to introduce him briefly. Ambassador Dr. Ukawari is the chair of council for Egerton University. He's an accomplished author. Those of you who still have young children, you must have bought these books for the primary education cohorts. He's also an educationist, he's a diplomat. Can I say that he's a well-rounded individual who is done a lot of things for our country and academia as well. And I would like him to just give us a few remarks as we are waiting to restore the connectivity challenges as we overcome the connectivity challenges. So, Chairman, would you please, if you may make a few remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Kibwage, Vice Chancellor. I hope you all hear me. It's just a few words of introduction, really. And well, I've had the opportunity because of a bit of technological problem. I didn't want to interfere with the conference. I didn't want to disrupt or interrupt a presenter, but I would like to congratulate Egerton University for convening the 14th Biennial International Virtual Conference. COVID has brought a lot of negatives, cost lives and all that, but it has also increased our virtual reach. So a conference like this reaches the whole world thanks to the internet, and therefore brings in more people to the forum, more participants. The theme of the conference, Research and Innovations for Resilience in a Changing Environment. The environment is changing so rapidly, story of COVID, the story of climate change, that we cannot even keep up with the changes. Let me, from my own seat, let me light up my face a bit, I think. I would like to thank the organizers, thank the participants, thank the sponsors, also thank the presenters and facilitators who have already begun their work. I would like to say that conferences like this bring together people who have a common interest and would like to share skills, knowledge, and experiences. And as I said just a while ago, virtual conference has the capacity to bring people from across the globe. During a conference like this, we are given an opportunity to rethink, to review, to reinvent, learn from mistakes made in the past, incorporate new knowledge, and expand the horizons of human knowledge. I'm impressed by the number of presenters, 131 of them, impressed by the number registered to attend the meeting, over 800. Perhaps if it was physical face-to-face, we wouldn't attain that kind of number. I would like to
particularly thank the presenters, the facilitators, who will not only share knowledge, but later, after the conference, publish papers presented here, and this contributes to their or your professional and academic growth as scholars. I would like to refer to the biblical story of the foolish person who lit a lamp and put it under a bushel. Now, knowledge is a lamp, it provides light, and we scholars, academics, cannot put our lamp, light it, and put it under the bushel. You have to put it on top of the table for it to provide light to the entire room. So, as academics, as scholars, you are the light of the world. The university, I would like to quote from Benjamin Disraeli, one-time Prime Minister of Britain, in the 19th century, who defined the university as a place of light, of liberty, and of learning. And I would like to add, of providing and training young people for leadership. With these few remarks, I wish you fruitful deliberations, a good conference in which, although it's virtual, you meet and make new friends for Egerton across the world. Thank you very much, and Godspeed. Thank you, Vice Chancellor Professor Kibwage.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like then to pass this back on to the MC of the conference, Professor Nancy Mugai.
Thank you very much, Professor Kibwage. We also thank Ambassador Wario for the remarks. Indeed, though it is a virtual conference, we will seek for opportunities to network. And so we'll continue to engage on the chat so that we can have that interaction and networking ability. At this point, the speaker, Professor Wakindiki, is just trying to log in. So we'll just have one short clip, and then he will log in and we'll be able to continue. So Secretariat, kindly, a short clip, please. Point before we break out, we take the break and also join the breakout rooms. I would like just to make a few announcements that we'll be having a poll for this session. So I'll ask the Secretariat, they will post the poll, and we'll be having a poll or an evaluation for every session that we'll be attending towards the end of every session. So kindly do respond to that poll. We'll have 3 breakout rooms, and the breakout rooms that we have today will be addressing 3 sub-themes, or rather 2 sub-themes, but 3 topics. We have transformative agri-food systems with 2 topics, that is plant science, crop production, and soil science as one breakout room, and another room as food science and technology. But we also have the sub-theme, innovations in climate change and natural resource management. And the main topic for today is biodiversity. So we'll have those 3 rooms. You will have, as a participant, the right to choose which group you'd like to join. So you'll be able to see the breakout rooms, and you'll choose the breakout room that you want to be in.